tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
It's been a long day without you,
I can't take it.
and I'll tell you all about it when I see you again.
Out teardrops.
I was in a moment of silence.
Long way from where we began. Oh, I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. When
Except
I see
all right, guys.
We're not gonna ever see it
Wow.
again.
Gonna see him again.
Wow.
I'm glad
Wow.
we have a week to watch the show again.
I kind of feel like
I'm watching this like 3 times when I go home
I
because
was
I'm
wa-
still in shock.
We finished it, and I was like, we need to watch this again before we do the episode because I don't even know how to I can't even compose myself.
No.
I'm not even together right now. I literally have sort of a teardrop coming down my eye. You can
I got
vouch for me.
emotional. I
Yeah.
can vouch for you. I see it.
It's a little teardrop.
I see it.
Unbelievable. So, guys, this, if you can't tell, this is the AfterBuzz TV after show for Walking Dead. This is season 6, episode 3, titled "Thank You," and this was just. I mean, spoiler alert, before we even say anything, if you guys just are happening upon this because you somehow think it's the episode or something, we're going to totally blow your mind, so you should just go watch the episode and come right back if you
Yeah.
haven't.
Yeah.
But I think the most relevant character death on the show just happened. That's ever happened, right?
Yeah.
Would you say?
I totally agree.
I would
The
say
most
that.
likable, the most OG of everyone who's died so far.
Yeah. Well,
He's gone.
I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves. We should introduce ourselves.
Yes.
And our amazing guests
Yes.
Yeah,
as well.
100%. Yeah, my name is Ben Bateman. I'm sitting here talking about The Walking Dead, and I'm joined by a lovely panel. If you guys want to go down and introduce yourselves.
Hey guys, I'm Kristin Carole.
Hey, I'm Joyce Ajouri. You can find me on Twitter at JAJOURI.
Hey everybody, I'm Derrial Christon.
And we have a wonderful guest here. Sir, we have star of stage and screen. Mr.
Traumatized over here myself.
Oh my
but-
god.
You're losing it too. You didn't even know it was coming, right?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
horrible. Jay Huguley, thank you for coming, sir.
Good to be here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
aka David.
As sad,
Yeah.
as sad a day it is.
What an episode for you to be on.
Oh my gosh. I was
Seriously.
completely not prepared for that.
Nothing? You had no idea?
No idea.
Wow.
I think I knew about Nicholas, but I had no idea about Glenn.
I had no idea about either of them.
Yeah.
And you.
I know. I was sitting next to him and I was telling him when we were watching it before this, I didn't know if I should watch the TV or him because
Yeah,
his
right?
reactions were just amazing. You were, I could
was
tell how
really,
shocked you were.
I got a text right before it started, and I thought they were kidding me. I thought that somebody was playing a goof on me.
Why would someone do that to you?
I know. I
Who
know.
is this person?
I don't know.
They're not a good friend.
I mean, we'll get to it because there's a lot to cover. And
Yeah.
It's the last
It's-
thing of the
yeah.
episode, so we should
Yeah.
start at the top. Guys, if you're watching along and you want to join in on the conversation, you can tweet with the hashtag ABTVTWD. That is the official AfterBuzz TV The Walking Dead hashtag for Twitter and whatnot. If you guys want to interact and in the live chat, we have Kristen's up here.
Yeah,
over in the
I'm
live
keeping
chat.
an eye on the live chat, you guys.
And we are going to get right into the episode. So I guess we'll start it right out. Right, we've got trouble in the woods. We've got the folks going off path, and they hear the horn. And so this opens up, and we've seen the terror in the town in Alexandria, but we aren't there at all. We never even see it this episode. So we start out in the woods, and one of Rick's most memorable lines in the woods, he says, "Listen, they're not all going to make it." And that's to hear him say it out loud like that is pretty startling. It really shows you where his character's gotten to, right?
Because usually he's the one that's like, no, we got this. I have a plan.
We
It's
can get through
foolproof.
it.
We can get through it.
Yeah.
But today he's like, let's be real. This is a disaster.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has a bunch of people that are uniquely unqualified to do anything that they do.
Yeah, it doesn't help that A, they didn't have the experience that Rick has,
Right.
and B, they were wounded in the process of running,
Yeah.
running away. So
They don't really know how to use guns or
No.
knives.
No.
Yeah, they're not equipped.
as
Yeah.
Michonne so clearly stated.
Right.
Well, because Sturgis shoots Scott in the leg, right? That's what happens? Is it Sturgis or the other guy? I thought he fires his gun twice and Scott takes a bullet through the leg. That's what happens, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was Sturgis.
It's Sturgis.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty gnarly. Like just so uncoordinated that you're just gonna like aim for the head and just shoot your buddy in the leg. But yeah, man, so much gore and just like also the utilitarian sort of approach that Rick seems to be taking now openly, where it's like, okay, you got bit, stab you through the head, take your knife, take your stuff, put it in my backpack. I'm not even gonna make eye contact with you guys. I don't even care what you think. We just gotta keep moving. That was pretty startling.
He's
I don't know.
so good at what he's doing at this point. You know, it's just like, you know, he's
a machine.
A master.
Yeah, he's a master.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I guess we'll cover sort of Rick's whole arc, right? Because he starts there and obviously ends up in a crazy situation in that camper. But there's definitely like a shift that happens at some point in the comic books where they take the character and they start to just sort of introduce this idea that not everything he's doing is necessarily correct. Like he believes it to be correct, and he's such a survivor that a lot of his character is built on this idea that, you know, it's going to work out. But sometimes, a couple times, like more recently in the comics, it'll be like he makes a really bad decision. And it seems like maybe he's gotten a little over his head now, you know? It seems like he's kind of under control, but, I mean, the episode ends, obviously, with him unloading and being trapped in a camper.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
I think the opinion of a lot of people is that his, I guess, dictatorship is a little sloppy now. So I feel like today was the beginning of it actually catching up to him. Because he essentially separated the group in the beginning. And like you said, because he thought it was correct and he thought it was necessary for survival. But I think to the viewer, it's like, what are you doing, Rick? I mean, Michonne still stands by him. I'm sure Glenn, till his last breath, stood by Rick. But, you know, it just doesn't, he's not the same, maybe as calculated as he used to be.
Yeah, so. He definitely has a real survivalist mentality. Like he really values being alive. Yeah. And you can see it fade from a lot of these characters' eyes, where they're sort of like, you know what, like I'm losing it. It's just I'd rather just not be around anymore. Yeah. And Rick very much seems to have. I think it's always just for Carl, right? That's the whole reason.
And Judith, yeah.
And Judith,
yeah. Without the kids, you'd think he probably wouldn't.
He'd have no reason to live, which is what we heard last episode, right? Like you need to find a reason to fight for this.
Yeah, and I mean, he definitely seems more stressed than he ever has been before, but then he's also equipped his team to step up. I mean, everyone has their particular roles that they have really stepped up to. Derrial, Michonne,
right?
You know, Glenn, unfortunately, you know what happened, but everyone has their particular order that they carry out all the way. You know, even Sasha, I mean, look at Sasha and Abraham, you know, it's just, but we do see him transitioning into almost like a loose cannon a little bit, you know.
Totally. Yeah. So he's on his mission and he's running along and he hits these three zombies, right? But he breaks the knife off in his hand and cuts his hand open. I wasn't quite clear how much of that blood was his blood or the zombie blood, how bad the cut is.
Yeah.
But I know, I mean, he loses his hand at some point in the comics quite a while ago, and he hasn't yet in the show. I don't know if he will, but I started to think, I wonder if like that would be a function that they're going to use, you know, instead of the way that he loses it in the show.
Possibly.
Or in the comics, that they would maybe like his hand would get infected somehow, and he would have to take it off. I don't know. I'm a little confused, but so. While he's doing this, we've got Abraham and driving along, right? And Daryl's on the motorcycle. They weren't really in the episode too much. Have you guys noticed that Daryl's like a minor character now? He hasn't really been in the show in forever.
Which I think plays into the way Derrial is acting in the show. Like he seemed to be itching to get out there and to really like do a little bit more than what he was doing, because he was just riding on his motorcycle alongside the car and. He obviously wasn't feeling it. Like he was bored. Right. He wanted to get in on some more action. So I think he's getting less screen time, and it's like showing in the himself.
But don't you feel like it's all coming?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think it's the process of introducing these other characters and letting them have their time to kind of really develop there, and then we're gonna see a lot of Derrial coming up, I'm sure.
Well, speaking of, so we mentioned this with Glenn, that how relevant of a character he is. So since the beginning of the show, if you had to sort of just figure out like who were like the core six irreplaceable characters, I was having a conversation. Rick obviously is one. Who's the number two at this point? Is it Michonne or Carol? Probably, right?
I actually want to say Carol because at this stage.
But they're still in that five.
In that three.
So we have three of them.
And I would say Derrial and Glenn for sure. Glenn, those five.
And Carl,
yeah.
Because they're not going to kill anytime soon. That would really changed the complete.
Yeah.
Laurie was gone quite a while ago, and Michonne's really built into a character, so maybe she replaced them. But I'm just trying to think, is there anybody else in the show you can think of that's really on that level? Because
I felt that way about Glenn, though.
Yeah,
Right, I know.
You just don't feel safe.
It's interesting on the live chat because some people are thinking he's not dead. Like one person, John Paul, I'm going to do a shout out to you because I go both Glenn and Jon Snow are alive.
Wow.
I was trying.
Don't do that to me.
I know, we're all just itching to talk about Glenn. We could just spend 45 minutes just talking about that character. Like it almost feels like we owe it to him.
Mm-hmm. I hope. Okay, at this point, like I hope he's dead because I would hate to see him come back as a walker and like Rick run into him or something. That would be the worst.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how you can unless it actually was Nicholas getting eaten above him. I mean, did we actually ever? Glenn's dead, right?
Glenn's dead,
right?
Yeah.
So
He's a
Glenn.
goner.
I don't think anyone's willing to admit it.
No, I think Glenn is dead. I'll admit that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other question that gets to be for later on is he is such a big character, not just for us watching, but for everybody in the show, pretty much has a really big connection to him. I mean, Maggie's going to want to go run out there. I mean, we saw how they were with each other going to Terminus.
Yeah. Right.
And I can only imagine now that knowing that he split up from the group, on the one hand, it's almost good Nicholas didn't survive because let's say Glenn saved Nicholas and this guy's already been shady.
Yep.
Right.
There's no way I don't think that Maggie wouldn't kill him almost.
Oh, yeah.
So I think there's so many different interesting aspects now.
Because she knew, because he told her, right?
Well, this whole group, he's not going to show up there.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. So, we'll keep teasing at it, and we'll finally get to it in the end.
Mm-hmm.
But so we kind of get out of the woods and we split off. Rick takes off with the cut hand, and then at the same time we have Michonne and Heath and your character.
Yeah.
And you've gotten bit at this point.
I get bit early on.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks. It was a light biting too.
Yeah,
You're like, come on, man. Like it just, it was
it's
like.
I just love your statement. You were like, I know what this means, and you just kept it moving.
I mean, I think I don't know a lot, but I think I know what that means,
Yeah.
and I know that it's not a good place to get bit.
No. Part of me, because you didn't turn quickly, and I know people might turn, in different timings and stuff
Right.
in the show. But when you weren't turning, and as the show kept going, I was like, does he maybe have a reason why he's not turning? Is he going to turn? Like
Like an immunity or something.
Yeah, like this is taking a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm glad it took a while
Right.
because you got all that screen time, and unfortunately it was sad to see you go. But I was like, why isn't he turning yet? Like this is going so slowly.
It either was a light bite or something, but I know that I
Yeah.
had a certain amount of time before I lost it.
Well, a lot of the guys when they get bit, I feel like it takes like a solid day if it's a smaller bite for you for it to fully affect you. And I think in the course of the time from you got bit to the time that your character bites it, it's got to be less than 2 hours probably.
Well, and we saw
I would
that in
imagine.
season 1 with Jim and as part of the group.
right,
They
I
left
forgot
him on the side of the road, and he was okay with them for a little while, and he just wanted to go off on his own when that happened. What was so devastating about your characters with Walking Dead does so well is that note you wrote that David wrote to
Yeah.
his wife. That was just heartbreaking,
Thought
and the
that was
fact
a
that
really-
Michonne never got it
I know.
afterwards.
I know, and I just thought that was such a romantic storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish we could have seen more of it.
I know.
3 months. That's a short time.
It's such a tragic function, like to do that sort of thing. And incidentally, actually, you were in True Detective. That's
Yeah.
spoiler alert again, guys. If anybody hasn't watched True Detective season 2, I'm just going to shout out something that happens. But something very
Season
similar
1.
happens. Yeah, you're in season
Yeah,
1,
yeah.
and season 2 ends in a similar way.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is a funny thing that it's just like it's so
Yeah.
unsatisfying to see something like that happen on TV. You're just like, God, that is bleak.
Yeah.
That is so bleak.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get the small bite. That's a really unique reaction. Most characters on this show don't have that reaction. I know what this means. I'm instantly okay with this.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because the characters, those unprepared characters, are now actually starting to see so much death.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he tells you that he's lost everything.
Yeah.
He's lost his kids and his wife, and now he's remarried, but he's just seen it all clearly, and yeah, he just wants to get home and say
Yeah.
goodbye, and I love you.
Yeah.
It's a sweet story.
Oh my gosh.
What he wrote the note on, is that a roll of toilet paper?
No, it was a cash register
That explains it.
from the
Yeah.
pet store.
I was trying to imagine writing a note on a roll of toilet paper. How difficult
That
that
would not
probably be.
work.
And then Michonne tells you that she's going to get you home.
Yeah.
So I was hoping. I was like, he's going to make
know.
it. He's going to see the wifey.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That stupid fence.
How long did it take you to film those scenes?
I was there for that time over the course of 2 weeks. So, yeah.
How long before that episode did you know that your character was going to go?
I mean, I think as soon as I got those pages, but then again, you never really know, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, but as soon as I saw like how many walkers there were and how many were coming, I was like, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very, and I think for all of that too, it's got to be interesting for you to have like just people clawing at you and everything. How intense was that kind of a
It's
scene?
a very strange feeling. But you get used to it. I mean, I think, in the beginning, just like sitting next to a walker having lunch is, a very strange thing.
I would say strange, yeah.
I love it.
But you get used to it pretty quickly, The weird thing is at the end of the day, you meet someone, they're like, hey, I'm Chris. I'm like, oh, hey, Chris, how are you? He's like, no, I'm Chris. I've been working with you all day.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, my God, I've been like wrestling you. I don't recognize them at all.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
The amount of makeup those guys have to go through must just be unreal.
It's
Hours and hours and
incredible.
hours every day.
Hours.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And then I've heard so many different things about what the walkers are actually eating when they are eating the flesh. What is it that they are
I
eating?
don't know. I never asked. But it's
You
I
didn't
know
try
it's-
some like,
Strict
But I know
don't ask, don't
no
tell
one's ever
policy.
disgusted by it, so it must be something
Yeah?
sweet or something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I
It's
imagine
always-
it'd be delicious.
Yeah.
I always figured it was KFC because it's usually sponsored by that.
Right.
Sponsored by KFC.
Chicken flesh. Maybe from
I
the
will like
mouths.
the one time I like almost gagged was when Annie, she's the one who's coming out of the pet store and she gets it and like what was coming out, it just looked like
Oh,
spaghetti.
man.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh.
It's brutal.
That's crazy. I was actually thinking when she went down, her scene where she like turned around to like shoot, it was kind of like Last Stand and like Call of Duty or Battlefield.
Yeah.
It was like the
Yeah.
angling was cool too. It was just like
Yeah.
and even in the Walking Dead video game, you kind of go through things like that.
Yeah.
Similar to that.
She went down fighting.
Yeah.
She went, yeah.
I was
did.
kind of hoping she'd be a bigger distraction than what she was to kind of help your team out and
There were
get
just
away,
too
but
many.
there were too many, yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like walkers also, like, if one person goes down, even if there's like 300 walkers and one person, they'll, like, so many of them, they'll be drawn to, like, the one just,
Yeah.
like, dying thing they can reach as opposed to continuing to chase,
Yeah.
right? That seems to be kind of a trend.
I guess as long as the person who's dying is screaming, they're gonna go towards that sound too.
Right.
Right.
And the
Right.
gunshots in Annie's case.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally. So we end up in the store, and Michonne, she sort of has this moment of lost humanity. Because did you guys think when she says you're gonna get home, did you think that he actually was? Like, what was
Yeah.
your feeling?
I did.
I did.
I
Yeah.
trust in
Believed it.
Michonne.
Yeah.
It'd be like
Yeah.
if she says it or if Carol says it, I'm believing whatever either one of them says
I
at this
totally
point.
agree.
We could have, Carol as president, Michonne as VP.
Yeah.
It's almost like Alexandria though has brought on this thing with the characters where on that long walk where they were starving and dying before Aaron found them, they had lost everything, and they were like will to live was they were all starving and they had no water, and really they were just like these feral creatures like living on the road. And it's almost like even though they tried to resist it being brought back
Right.
into Alexandria, they got sort of domesticated a little bit,
Yeah.
and they got some of that humanity back. Whereas like on the road, it's almost like you don't think that Michonne would have ever looked at someone and said something, made a promise like that sort of you can't keep in this world.
Well, we saw her, with Andrea, how much she had been on the road with just walkers, and she ended up making this great bond with her. So this is somebody that does know how to take care of people.
Right.
Even Andrea, when she was sick at that one point, and she goes, leave, without me, and Michonne's like, no, you're coming with me. And that's the kind of person she is. And we saw it with that, so I just assumed her telling that to your character.
Right, and like
that was
Rick,
something.
she's just so super competent, in everything she does. So.
Yeah, well, and there's like a recurring theme in the show, right? Of like the sort of if you lose all of your humanity,
Yeah.
then like what are you living for?
Yeah.
So you try to maintain as much of it as you can while still being like a survivalist.
And she's good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember last season we saw that too when she had that conversation with Carl when they were like looking for those houses when they were scouring through those houses last season. I don't know. I remember she told Carl the story about her son and
Right.
her family life. So I feel like it's been in Michonne all along. But yeah,
Definitely.
she's different with different characters like Rick and everything.
Yeah.
How was it working with Denai? Because she seems wonderful.
I mean, I have to do a whole hour on that. I love that actress. I love that character. She's always fully prepared, and she's just a black belt actor.
I love
I
it.
think.
Yeah.
Her little monologue in this episode was
that
phenomenal.
amazing?
That was great.
I was like, I didn't want to breathe. I was holding my breath because I wanted to make sure I heard everything she said. It was so good.
She doesn't usually get scenes like that. She's
No.
usually so much more in, like sort of inside,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like after when we were watching, like she just needs a mic to drop it.
Yeah.
Just walk out.
Oh,
like
yeah,
take
that
that, Heath.
It was certainly a mic drop moment.
And there was definitely some interesting moments between her and Heath. You know,
Yeah.
I was trying to see where this was going to go between those two. I was like, do they kind of like each other? Is it just strictly?
Ooh, do you think that's a hookup?
I don't know. It was.
Masheath.
Yeah.
It was a little bit intense, you know, those two, but it seems like it could take to another level too.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Who knows? There's an aspect of Michonne's character that they haven't explored in the show too much. I mean, obviously in the comics you just get so much. There's just so much, but like there's definitely this sort of like clinging on to and needing to be acknowledged by men that pops up sometimes in the character in the comics that we haven't seen show up in her character on the show. And I'm wondering if we will see that start to develop a little bit more. So who knows? But speaking of Heath, you've got Heath and you got Scott, who are newer characters. So Scott's taking the bullet.
Yeah.
We don't think Scott's going to make it, probably. Do we think he's going to make it? I was trying to figure out what the point of him sort of surviving would be. I feel like Heath is Scott's buddy, and if Heath has to watch Scott die, it's going to... Because that feels like they're trying to make Heath more of a main character.
Well, we saw at the end that they made it.
They make it back.
Yeah, that they made it back that way. I was a little bit more suspicious of Scott making it just because he was hurt. It just didn't seem as strong of a thing for that. And again, I believe Michonne with David.
Right.
So I was thinking, I'm like, she didn't have that same talk with Scott. So I was like, We saw what happened to Annie, so I'm not exactly sure what's
They
going
look
on.
like they've made it home.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were,
Yeah.
I just wonder what... Because obviously, anytime you take away a main character with Glenn, you need to sort of fill the space, and so Morgan definitely is a character that we're going to get a lot more of, and he seems to be, or at least I think, I don't know, but it seems like he's going to be an important character. And it seems like Heath might fill that role. I get the sense the way that they're having him interact with Michonne and the scenes he's getting, right? He seems like he might develop into something.
Seems like it.
Possibly. I think he'd be a good balance of like humanity and once he gets trained, like a killing machine when he needs to. Maybe Michonne will help him develop that part of him, and then he can still keep like his morality and his humanity, hopefully when they get back to Alexandria, and hopefully things will be okay once they get back, or like they can just redo everything or renovate everything.
He's also a big part of the comic book, so
Heath.
yeah.
Okay.
He's got a good stretch in the comics. He I try to stay a little behind, like a couple years, like 12-ish issues behind, because I don't know exactly what's happening, but in the point that I'm at in the comics, he's still like a fairly main character.
I just know there was a lot of interest in like who they're going to cast.
Yeah, he's a good character, and he looks identical. He's one of the few,
right?
He's one of the few characters where they chose and they were like, we're going to literally dress him and make him look just
cool.
like the comics, which is not, they don't always do that. But let's talk Rick before we get into the final stuff with Glenn, because where Rick ends up. So hand is bleeding, ends up in the camper, pulls it over. He gets attacked by these two guys, which at first I was like, these must be saviors, just like other saviors, not saviors.
The
sorry,
wolves.
Wolves. Two wolves.
You gotta stop reading those
Jumping
comics
around.
all the
I know, I
time.
just get screwed up. I'm literally doing it simultaneously, so I was doing
Oh man, not a good idea.
we were doing Fear the Walking Dead at the same time, so like reading all the comics and doing this show prep and then that show, I was just like forgetting who was who and who died and like mixing names up. But anyway, it felt like maybe they were the wolves, but it didn't seem like it because you didn't.
That's what I thought they
Well,
were at first.
Yeah.
But
We were talking about it before the show quickly. Remember last episode when one of the wolves left with a gun?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
And
that group
that's
of 5
the group
of them.
that Morgan let go. So it was 5 of them. So I think the guy that shot at Rick was the guy who took the gun last episode.
So we think it maybe was the same group.
I think so.
I think
Yeah, and a
so,
lot
yeah.
of people from the live chat were talking about it earlier to kind of confirm what we had been talking about as well.
Yeah.
Because again, a lot of people don't know this. We literally all watch the show together and go live immediately. We have no time for prep. We do not get paid for this. We do this because we love the show.
Yeah.
And today, we even brought character sheets just to make sure we make no flubs. So we want to make you guys happy because we're big fans as well.
And we can't even watch The Walking Dead or The Talking Dead,
No.
which sucks because it'd be really cool to watch it after the show and get more
Mm-hmm.
insight, but we don't even get a chance to do that. So
Totally. Speaking of which, actually, I'll give a shameless plug for iTunes and everything really quickly before we continue moving to the show. But this goes out as an audio podcast on iTunes, and it's, as she said, free content, which we love to do, and we all love the show, and we like doing this. But if you guys help us by giving us ratings and reviews, it definitely goes a long way. I'm looking at you guys over here, and I'm not even on camera looking at it. But it goes a long way to helping us do the show, and the more ratings and reviews we can get, the better off the show does. So help us out with that and keep the thing going, because we like to be able to show up here and keep the lights on.
Yeah.
But
that's important.
It is. We can't
need
do it in the
them.
dark. We can't do it in the dark. So Rick is he's in the camper, gets attacked, takes out the two guys, and like doesn't even hesitate for a second. He's like, I'm not gonna ask you who you are. Like, he doesn't do that. You know, this ends now.
How many people have you killed? How many walkers have you killed?
He doesn't even care.
And we just assume that he kills the people
in the van.
Yeah, on the other side.
On the other side,
Well,
because
at
he
least we
shoots through
saw
the wall.
we saw like a brief shot of them laying there after he
in the rearview mirror.
as he was driving away.
Yeah.
But at that point,
Oh no, he didn't drive away.
or he
got
was
stuck
trying.
there.
He was trying to drive away. Excuse me. And it's just really, we saw him scared.
Yeah.
Really just sitting
He was
there, and
shook
I
up.
think
You're right.
I think he knew Glenn died because he kept trying to get onto the phone. On the walkie with him, and you just hear the static, and he's realizing how alone he feels at that moment.
Yeah, he's got that
And then the
fear
baby,
going.
the baby food that we saw in one of the pockets
Yeah.
of the people that he picked.
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of a big realization of, oh my God, Glenn is one of the closest people to me. He's not answering. He always does. And
Right.
we know something's going on at Alexandria. I'm telling people not to go back there. Is it going to be my fault because I told them we have to get this herd out? If we went back, it's for us and not for them. And he's probably sitting there going, crap, maybe we should have gone back for them because we can stop them better.
Were
And
you
then-
guys? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, then it was also the contrast because then you see Derrial trying to reach Rick, and
Right.
then, he can't get him either. So it's like you're seeing both of them trying to kind of communicate with someone within the camp that they really care about, and they can't get to them.
And I also feel like maybe this is the first time Rick actually believes that his plan was not a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's defeated essentially.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, and you see all of that in his face at the end. He does a great job. I think he's come just such a long way with that character. Like, compared to the first season, I think he was good and everything. It's just like you really see it in his face now so much more than you ever did before. But
He's so vulnerable in the moment at the truck, just trying to start that. Yeah.
You only had a few scenes with him, right?
Yeah,
So
a little
more in the woods a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, intense guy to work on set with.
I mean, the best. I mean, just the gold standard of
Really?
the lead of a show. Yeah. I mean, it just a really, really nice guy and really hardworking and just a great leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does he stay in character when the director yells cut?
No.
Okay.
But he keeps the accent,
keeps the
though, right?
accent.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I think he's doesn't want to go back and forth.
Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Probably
enough.
too
And they
hard.
say he's one of the nicest people.
Oh my gosh, nicest guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So he unloads the automatic weapon through the wall. And I gotta say, I've seen a lot of guns get shot in this show, and like I am a big action movie fan, so I'm not averse to like that sort of thing. But I was really kind of taken aback by it. It was a really just intense reaction. It was like, I'm not even gonna ask or see who these people are or wonder how many there are. I'm just gonna unload this rifle through the wall. Just unload it.
It was badass.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when you have two people attack you, you've got a hand that's not doing so well, and they're
or
obviously
flight.
sneaking up.
Yeah,
on,
he knew they were coming to get him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for a brief second when we saw the people through the side view mirrors,
Yeah.
I was like, is it Enid? Is it Michonne?
Right.
Like we were thinking it was the three that were,
I thought it was Michonne. And
Yeah.
Scott. Yeah.
For a
second.
brief moment, I was like, oh, no.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Though it would be insane if they did. But this episode ended on something totally insane, so we don't know. So yeah, he couldn't
Anything
start.
is possible in The Walking Dead.
Yeah, right. Well, you do start to wonder a little bit. You start to think, okay, at what point in time because you got to think they're going to keep the show going as long as they can. It's the highest rated, most watched drama in the history of cable television. So there's no chance that they're going to end it prematurely, and that there's fodder to just keep it going forever.
Yeah.
So you wonder at what point if they're ever going to kill Rick. If they were going to do that, how far into the show would they have to be before they did it? Because the show would struggle, but I still think that it could function without Rick. It would just go in a different direction. The fan base is so huge at this point.
It would go in a different direction, but I hate to say it, but it does so well with Rick. I can't imagine it doing like better without him.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would do better. I
don't know.
If they really wanted to shake things up, say a couple years down the line,
Yeah.
I think it's the sort. And I was sort of trying to think how it would happen if it ever did.
If they can find somebody who they can build up as a replacement who would be as good, if not better, then by all means, like
Yeah.
do it later, do it much later. But as long as they have someone who can fill his role perfectly.
Yeah, maybe the spin-offs will be the place where they can kill your main characters and swap them out a little bit more. We'll see. But so he does that. He gets stuck. He can't start the car. Definitely concerned for his safety. Let's talk about what we all really want to talk about here, guys.
No, I can't.
Now, a couple people are saying on the live chat, because like we said, we can't watch Talking Dead, but they did not show Glenn on the in memoriam section of it.
Interesting. And he also, when Hardwick did his intro, the 10-minute before the end intro, he didn't have what's the actor's name who plays him? Stephen Yeun. Yeah.
He wasn't on the show,
which is rare. Usually, like when Beth died, like they'll have the character that dies on the couch.
But see, that goes to what we're saying about how it must have been a huge secret to everybody that Glenn was going to go.
I wonder if Hardwick knew.
So I can't imagine Hardwick knew. If you didn't know,
I didn't know.
If you didn't know, Jay, then why would Hardwick know?
Well, I think also it's better for Hardwick if he doesn't.
Yeah.
Because
Right,
if he's sitting there kind of like, I knew this a month ago, guys.
He's basically he does what we do.
Yeah.
Essentially. I
pretty
mean,
much.
Yeah,
You
he
assume-
reviews the show.
yeah. It's insane. So it's happening, right? So they're running away, and we've all seen this whole thing with Nicholas as it unfolded. Like, we all knew he was kind of like a wild card, and we were trying to figure out. It was clear that his function as a character to be saved by Glenn was supposed to further Glenn's character. It was supposed to be a big like feather in Glenn's cap morally, to be this guy that would spare this guy's life and whatever. Mm-hmm. We get to this point where they're running in the alley and they get up on the trash can, and I had this moment of like sort of thinking to myself, how are they going to get out of this?
Yeah.
Kind of like when you're watching Mission Impossible, you're like, there's no way Tom Cruise dies.
Because you can't imagine Glenn would go.
Yeah, you're like, there's just...
But that's the thing, the great thing that the show does, I think, is because you just go like, okay, this is impossible.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't imagine it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting there thinking, and you're like, okay. And then Nicholas puts the gun up to his head, and you're like, he's going to sacrifice himself, and that'll help Glenn get away somehow.
Can I interrupt really quick?
Yeah.
Just so that, thank you, Jep Hull. Just while it's on here before it disappears with all the chat going on, Scott Gimple had made a statement on Talking Dead that says, "Dear fans of The Walking Dead, this is a hard story to tell, and when we were planning to tell it, we know our friends at The Walking Dead would be talking to you about it. And we knew we should say something about it, at least our silence says something we didn't mean to say or not say. So I'll say this. In some way, we will see Glenn, some version of Glenn, or parts of Glenn again, either in flashback or in the current story to help complete the story." Thank you so much for that, by the way.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's good to know.
And
Thank you so much.
I figured it wasn't the end. I figured somehow we would see him further
They're
down
going
the
to
line.
look for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it happened so quickly, too. It was no time to really react to it.
Oh my gosh, the episode where they find his body is going to be really hard.
Yeah, we wonder, there's so many, so you wonder if either to find his body
They're
or like...
going to look for him.
Flashbacks, though, would make...
Yeah.
Maggie flashbacks, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's happening, and he fires the gun. They fall on the ground, and Derrial, I know you were saying this. I was thinking the same thing. It was like, are they eating Nicholas's body?
Yeah, that was
happening?
my first initial reaction when I saw it. I was like, oh, it's not Glenn. Glenn fell on his back and Nicholas fell on top of him, and he's shielding, Nicholas' body is shielding Glenn. That's what I thought, and they're eating Nicholas. There's no way they can be eating Glenn.
But did you have the moment where you're like, and then you're trying to put like A to B to C, and you're like, so he's gonna roll out from under
I'm like,
and
how would he
crawl
get out?
through the, and then you're like,
Burst out,
Glenn's
big
dead.
jump.
Glenn's
Well,
just being
I was even
eaten
thinking,
right
like,
now.
honestly, I was in such disbelief. I was like, there's got to be a secret. Maybe there's a secret compartment
Like he's
on the
on top
floor.
of a manhole
He's
cover.
gonna slide,
Yeah.
do like this backslide somewhere, and get out of this
I mean,
situation.
the only thing is that he was very conscious
He's very conscious.
during
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
As
You know what
I
I mean?
imagine you would be if your guts were being torn out of you.
I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is.
Yeah. I think that would happen.
If it all happened that fast.
It
Yeah.
would happen. For sure it would happen.
Well, we had Michael Trainer who plays Nicholas on the
Yeah.
show a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how fans really see him and get upset with him because of his character.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's never going to be able to walk anywhere now. I mean,
Right.
fans are really going to react off of his character now. He was the reason for Glenn dying.
Yeah.
Well, okay, go
Which
ahead.
I loved because Glenn spared Nicholas's life.
Yeah.
If he hadn't done that, Glenn would still be alive.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, and this episode I thought maybe Nicholas would redeem himself. It seemed like they were
Yeah.
building up
That's what they're
that
building.
path for him. Like they did a good job with that, and it tricked me to, when I saw that he was the reason that Glenn, fell to the walkers and stuff. So
The thing that sucks, I think he was trying
crazy.
to redeem himself,
Yeah.
like
He
get himself
was.
out of the way, because he's like, if I'm here, I'm not handling this very well. And I think part of his thank you at the end to Glenn was like, you're not, earlier on, he goes, you're not that guy anymore that's going to leave
Right.
people behind. And here's the one person who believed in him. And so he was like, I'm going to save him by letting myself go. So he can't make that decision, because I
Yeah.
know he's not going to leave me behind, because he didn't before. And so I think in his mind, he's like, I'm doing the right thing. And then it's like, oh, wait, no, that don't
yeah,
work out
there's
so
no way he
well.
would have thought that would happen post-mortem.
No.
Like,
Yeah, well, and also, they just keep taking this giant hammer of if you help the weak, you'll die, and just beating us over the head with it just repeatedly. And it's like, it just seems to be more and more true all the time. Glenn, of all the characters on the entire show, is probably sort of the most good in the sense that he always wanted to help, and he always would spare people, and he was a runner. He would go and get stuff from the city to help other people. And
little pizza boy.
yeah, and he was so sweet to Maggie, and just all of it. Just probably realistically the most fan favorite character on the show would be my guess.
Hero.
A true hero, yeah.
Honestly, this whole episode, now that I think back on it, it started off with Glenn. Like, we see Glenn running. He's the first person we see, and then we see him like selflessly helping Annie like walk and go along as they try to get ahead of the walkers and everything. And then here he is giving Nicholas a second chance and telling Nicholas to come along with him on the mission to burn the feed store. It's like he's giving everyone all these chances, and he's the one running and like getting killed.
The other most interesting thing about this, and as I said last week, any stuff that's like way in the future of what's happening, I won't say any specific things about the comics, but I will say that Glenn also dies in the comics. And at this point, I think it's fair to say it. And it's not in this way, is all I'll say. So I am wondering about that, if that storyline that I was expecting at some point, and I know a lot of fans in the forums and the chats and stuff, they talk about that moment that happens in the comics. So I'm sort of wondering if that's going to happen later.
It'll probably happen to someone else.
And they seem like they play around with that. I mean, the same with, Herschel's head got chopped off by the governor in the TV show, and in the comics it was somebody else.
Yeah.
So I think they'll play around with it a different way. And I think part of it is probably because they kept getting asked about this character who kills Glenn. When's he going to show up? When's he going to show up? All this kind of stuff. And so probably like, you know what? Let's just take him out of the equation.
Yeah.
No more questions about this guy. That's not how Glenn's going to die.
Yeah, well, it's crazy, too. I mean, to see, this was really terrifying and sad and heartbreaking on every level. And maybe the most sad, the saddest moment in the whole show, the most startling moment in the comic is Glenn's death also, even though it's in a different way. It's the most unsettling thing that's happened thus far that I've read.
Yeah.
So, it's effective in both ways, probably just because of the character as much as the cause. But I do want to talk about, so the whole time we were watching Nicholas, he kept having these weird out-of-body moments where he was sort of like losing his vision and getting spooked. Did that worry any of you guys? Like throughout, you're like, oh man, this guy's a loose cannon, something bad's gonna happen.
I didn't think that something like that was gonna happen. I definitely thought, okay, why is Glenn giving this guy another chance? Like, he's clearly, he's not cut out for this. Like, Glenn's only gonna be brought down, but I didn't think it would end the way it ended.
Right.
But I do want to say that Michael Trenor did amazing in that final scene he was in with Glenn. I was like, holy crap. Like, you can see that he's just done. Like, he's clearly over it.
That's what I thought it was. I didn't think it was like an out-of-body experience. I just thought he was just like...
losing it.
He's like...
This is too much.
Yeah.
I'm done. I can't do this anymore. How about the great writing of the fact that those words he utters is the title of the episode?
Yes, genius.
So brilliant.
Oh my god.
I
It's a crazy moment.
Glad we were all together.
I know.
Yeah.
He was making me nervous. Nicholas was making me nervous even when they were, by the store, because it's like he couldn't find his way. Glenn was really looking at him to be the leader around that area and really help them all out and find a hiding spot.
Yeah.
And he just, that's when I knew. I thought that he was going to die in this episode after I started seeing that kind of transition of him, and then the fact that they kept seeing him with the vision that was loose, and then he had the tingle in his ear, those type of things. I thought that he was going to just eventually just lose it with the walkers. But I never thought in my mind at all that Glenn would be affected by that.
Yeah.
How do you think that Maggie is going to sort of inadvertently find out and react?
She's lost everyone. She's going to lose it. I mean, she's literally lost everyone she loves. She's been the only character that has lost as much people,
She's lost the most. Yeah,
she's lost the most.
Everyone in her life that was important to her is gone. I mean, at least Rick still has his kids. Jessie still has her kids. I can't think of anyone else right now.
Right.
But there's nobody in Maggie's life.
Well, I guess technically Michonne has as well, because Michonne did lose her kid and her
we just didn't see it on the
I think
show.
most of the characters have
we
lost
see
their
it.
entire family. It's just that we've actually seen Maggie and met her as she still kind of had everything
and developed those characters.
Lost everything as well. feel for her. I have the biggest crush on that actress in the entire world, so I feel for her loss. But
You're like Lauren Cohen. You're single now on the show.
I love her. I think she's amazing. So
shout out to Dave Klein, who also loves Maggie.
Yes.
That was all he talked about when he was host here.
Really?
His love for
And
Maggie.
he said, if you ever bring her on the show,
He'll
please
come
tell
back.
me to
he
come
would
back.
show up here. Lauren Cohen doesn't
Specifically
make
for
many
that.
appearances.
It's okay.
though.
There's room for both of you, Ben. It's okay.
So Jay, I do want to talk a little bit quickly about. So you shot this how long ago?
June.
You shot this back in June.
Yeah.
So I noticed you've got like a library cards list of credits coming up. You've been working a ton.
Yeah, I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, man. And you've got you do a show coming out tomorrow night, right?
I'm on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend tomorrow night.
Where can we
Cool.
watch that?
Yeah, on it's on the CW.
Okay, super
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
What's your character like?
And Tova Felch is in it too.
Tova Felch.
Tova is plays the governor, or the mayor.
Oh, Deanna.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Cool. So you guys worked on both together.
Yeah.
That's cool.
What's your character like?
I play the lead girl's dad in her flashbacks, but so I'm probably gonna do more. But it's a really funny show. It's really clever.
I've heard good things about it.
Yeah.
I have yet to watch
It's really
it, though.
really smart writing.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then you've got a horror movie coming out as well, right? Abattoir. you said?
Abattoir, directed by Darren Boosman, who did the Saw movies.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So gore, some more gore.
So much gore.
Yeah, I have to say that was the one where I was just like, it was scary to make, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Are you a scary movie guy?
I'm not a scary movie.
No, you're not.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. But I'll see this. I mean, it's
Yeah. I
yeah.
hope so.
What's it like going from shooting a movie to shooting a TV show? I mean, you've done your fair share of both,
Yeah.
but what's that transition like?
I mean, TV's so different now that it feels like shooting a movie now.
Yeah.
Because it's all, they use all these different great film directors now on TV and stuff like that. So it's starting to feel a little bit more the same. But yeah, 1 hour television is the longest day.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was so you've done a bunch of big stuff the last few years, obviously Treme and then True Detective and 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
What would you say is like one of your favorite experiences you've recently had as an actor, where you really were like, wow, this is it, I'm doing
And The
it.
Walking Dead is hard to beat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like cowboys and Indians for an actor. You're just running through the woods with a gun and with great actors and great directors, and it's really I think the best writing on TV.
Had you followed it all the way up into when
I
you
had
were
watched
on?
the first season, and then I was traveling so much with work, I kind of like got out of it. And then when I got cast, I knew I had to know about the Alexandrians, so I watched the end of season 5, and then went back to 2, and so so I was jumping all over the place. But
Did you also do a lot of comic book reading
I didn't
as
do-
research?
I didn't do any of that. to be
Okay.
honest, Yeah.
It's probably confusing, I'd imagine, right? To try to, if you're trying to convey a character and just go off the script pages you get, if
I
you
don't
have that
think
much
so.
backstory that's not necessarily
Because
related.
it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not all the same.
No,
right?
definitely not, definitely not.
I think that would have confused me.
They seem to use a lot of functions where they'll be like, okay, in the comic book we had this great arc where this character got to point B from point A, and so this thing had to happen to make it happen.
Right.
And they'll be like, we still want him to get to point B, but we're just not going to have A happen. We'll just make it happen a different way, but we'll end up in the same place.
Right.
That seems to sort of be the most that, and then there's more recently in the last year or two, there's a lot of shifting where, like you were saying, they'll just literally swap out a character,
Right.
or they'll take a monologue that one character has and they'll just give it to another character or something. That seems to sort of be the most consistent thing you see nowadays.
And then if you could play another character on the show besides David, who would you have liked to play on The Walking Dead?
Oh, Rick. Come on.
Hell
It's like
yeah.
the best part in the world. I mean, what's happened to him and what's gonna happen. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Have you worked on your Rick voice? Can you do it?
No, you're talking
about
Yeah.
That was really good, actually.
You have a career outside of the Walking Dead podcast.
My buddy and I just do that line over and over again all the time. It's
With it
our
being
favorite.
such a big show too, I'm kind of curious. How did that come across your desk, so to speak? Because probably you didn't know that the character's name was David. We always hear these secret things about auditions for the show.
All made up sides. It's all made up characters and words for the audition. They just tell you nothing.
It's all fake.
All fake.
Interesting. I've heard Abrams does that same thing with his pilots. He sends out fake stuff.
A lot of people are doing now. It's all because of the internet.
Right.
Just, soaps do it a lot too because you just can't keep any secrets anymore.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Did you get just your pages then as well? Because I know sometimes they just do
Once
that.
I got there, or like right before I got to Atlanta, in LA, I got my pages. And I don't even, it may have been a different character name or something, but
Probably.
yeah. But I got there and I had a million questions, and no one, I was like telling the wardrobe people, I'm like, what's happening?
You're like, how am I supposed to know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming they don't do a table read, especially
No.
since you didn't know about Glenn at all.
Exactly.
Is there like a large compound that like a lot of people stay at, like nearby where you guys shoot, or is it?
Yeah, in Peachtree City.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Well,
Now, I heard they
Yeah.
have like dinners for people who die. Did you get a dinner? Or sometimes they do, or they used to at least at the beginning.
No, I mean, I don't think.
Maybe too many people got killed, and they were
Yeah,
like, it's too
exactly.
expensive. We can't put
Especially
POs
this
for this
episode.
anymore.
Like they were, I think there were like mumblings of like, they're killing a lot of people. So, yeah,
You guys got like a group banquet.
exactly.
Gimple, I want my chicken. Where is it? Right?
And that said, I had no idea about Glenn. Yeah,
That
Heartbreaker.
blows my mind.
I know. How do you keep a secret like that in television?
I don't know.
You want, well, maybe what they said with him, maybe they set it up so that it was like, okay, we'll shoot all these scenes, and then these flashback or other scenes they decided to shoot, shortly thereafter or something like that, so they could keep him on set for 6 or 8 more weeks so
Right.
nobody would know. I wonder. I mean, I'm curious how that's going to go down. We should probably just get to predictions and chat about it, right?
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
Let's do our AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
Now, your AfterBuzz TV prediction.
I forget about the lights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's spooky. It's almost Halloween.
I like it.
Though we use it all year, but
Exactly.
yeah, man. I don't. Does somebody want to jump in first? I'm still sort of discombobulated.
I don't.
I think Maggie's gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
Like she's not gonna handle this well. She's gonna go nuts, and
She's
I think
gonna go
she's
rogue.
gonna go out on her own to try to find him, and I think that's gonna cause a lot of problems. Especially when all of the group is eventually back. I don't think we'll see it in the next episode. It sounds like it looked like during the previews it's gonna be more about Morgan, but I think she's gonna go crazy, and I think especially when when Morgan finds out what that gun was used for that he let get away, I think he's gonna have a lot of problems.
That might change
too.
his perspective on how he deals with the whole situation. But also with Maggie, it hasn't I can't remember if it's been confirmed that she's pregnant.
No, they haven't said anything, but there's been little hints about it.
I thought.
Do you
so
think she's
too.
pregnant? Who thinks she's pregnant?
I think she's pregnant because I remember when Maggie and Glenn were having a conversation a couple episodes back, and she was like, "I want to go with you," and he's like, "No, you need to stay because of," and it sort of
Right.
trailed off. So I think she's pregnant. She's gonna go ape shit, and I don't know if that'll affect her pregnancy or not. But anyway, that's gonna happen with her. And the previews that we got at the end of this episode were all of Morgan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be a flashback episode for Morgan, which I hope it's not, because I kind of want them to wrap up what's going on.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think we're going to get a really intense Rick is trapped in an RV with no food or water for
That's
a
what
while.
my mind is on. I mean,
I think he's going to be stuck there for a while. I don't think it's going to be like a 1 or a 2 episode. I think we might get 3 or 4 episodes of Rick trapped and having to survive and going
Right.
through. I mean, I hope it's not one of those weird, he's going crazy and emotional things, kind of like they did when he was in the prison and losing Lori and all that. Because I do think that it gets a little old to see too much of that. But at least a couple episodes of him being trapped in this car, I think would
But
be
he
I
has
like
the
that,
radio. He
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
the radio, and he and Derrial are in. They have had conversations.
Yeah,
through
and
the radio.
Sasha.
But he's getting surrounded by a
A
mini
lot.
horde,
That's the
essentially.
thing.
So
Yeah.
how's that?
But he
how's that gonna
escaped
get
season
solved?
1 he escaped with Glenn's help. But I kind of like that little throwback as well when he was
That's
in the
true.
tank
That's
Interesting.
true.
at the end of the first episode.
And you can always get on top of the
RV?
truck, the RV.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what's
Then
good gonna
what?
do. Yeah, exactly.
there's no Glenn.
Just jump onto the motorcycle with Derrial. I got you,
Right,
bro.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just kidding. That wouldn't happen. I'm
Anybody
joking,
wanna-
guys.
Anybody want to throw another one before we sign off? Yeah.
I mean,
what would be your
Jay,
prediction?
Jay, what's your
Yeah,
prediction?
your
what? I mean, I don't feel safe anymore. I mean, I can't believe what just happened. I'm still traumatized. Aren't
Yeah.
you guys?
As
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
as much as I hate the fact that Glenn is dead, I also feel like the show kind of needed it. I don't know. I mean,
Something
it was
intense.
something shocking, something intense. I'm not saying it should have been Glenn
Yeah, yeah.
To go, but it experienced some slow times in the past, but
Right.
this
Yeah.
set it off.
And they've kept the core group now for a while. So
Characters running and killing things and hiding and running and killing. You eventually have to shake it up. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
with that being said, goodbye, Glenn. And where can the
Glenn.
people find all of you lovely panelists?
You can find me at Derrial Christon on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and also our sister brothers network, Black Hollywood Live.
Cool. You guys can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Jay Ajouri, and on the Tuesday night Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcasts.
You guys can find me, Kristin Carole, on Instagram and Twitter at Kristin Carole 13. I'll have a lot of stuff coming up that you'll want to keep up with.
You guys can find me at Ben Bateman Media on Twitter and Instagram. I do a couple shows. I do a show on Popcorn Talk Network, another sort of brother-sister network here, that is called Action Movie Anatomy, where we break down and talk about our favorite action movies in the world and all kinds of sweet stuff to do with sweet movies. That's what I do. Where can people find you, sir?
I'm at Jay Huguley at Twitter and at Jay Huguley Official at Instagram.
Thank you so much for coming
Thanks
on.
for having me. I'm glad we all
So cool to have
got
you.
through this together.
Yeah, you were the best person to watch it with today.
Man, I was going to be home alone with my dog. I would have been traumatized.
We're all at the edge of our seats together.
You just gotta promise you work on your Rick accent next time.
Exactly. I promise.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Bye. See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.